Hello, my name's Dr. Matt Capp from Capitalised Education. Today, let's have a chat about Principle 1 of Universal Design for Learning, referred to as engagement. During the planning, teaching and assessment cycle, teachers ask themselves the following question. Am I engaging students in the learning process in multiple ways? This is because there has been significant research showing that if students are not engaged in learning, they won't learn. This leads to improved educational outcomes if students are engaged. For students who experience barriers to learning or have a functional impact, engagement is really important because this is one way to help overcome the barrier or the functional impact associated with the learning process. Each of the principles of Universal Design for Learning are underpinned by guidelines. These guidelines are more specific ways of implementing the principle. In Principle 1, there are 3 guidelines for engaging students in the learning process in multiple ways. The first guideline is recruiting interest. The second guideline is sustaining effort and persistence. The third guideline is self-regulation. Each of the guidelines is underpinned by checkpoints or more targeted, explicit ways of implementing the UDL principle. There are 10 checkpoints associated with Principle 1 of engagement. Professor Hattie says that explicit teaching is targeted, planned, and strategic and directed. This is what the checkpoints associated with the Universal Design for Learning framework need to be done. They're not a haphazard approach of selecting something and putting it in place. It's really important that these checkpoints are targeted to the functional impact or barriers to the learning process that students experience. The Universal Design for Learning guidelines and checkpoints are clustered in 3 layers. The first layer is access. This guideline is recruiting interest. The associated checkpoints help teachers support students to access the learning process by overcoming their barriers or functional impact. The second layer is build. This guideline around sustaining effort and persistence and the associated checkpoints are designed to help students build on the access to the learning process that they've been able to achieve by overcoming their barriers to learning or the functional impact. The third layer, internalize, relate to self-regulation. This guideline and the associated checkpoints help students build on and internalize skills and strategies to be engaged in the learning process moving forward. At Capitalised Education, we'd be significantly concerned about the examples around Principle 1 provided in the literature, textbooks, conferences, and videos. Most of the examples of Principle 1 around engagement relate to that first layer, access. However, these examples are what teachers do. Professor Michael Fullen refers to this as external accountability, what teachers do. It's really important that teachers plan and think about how they're going to develop independence in their students, because students on the autism spectrum and students with diverse learning needs need to develop internal strategies to support their independence in their learning. If all the examples for Principle 1 around engagement focus on the first layer, access, helping students overcome barriers to the learning process to access their learning, but don't focus on building those skills and strategies or internalizing those skills and strategies, it's really hard to develop independence in student. Every time a teacher in a classroom puts in place a support to overcome a barrier to the learning process or functional impact, they need to think is, what am I doing developing independence?